The sterile scent of antiseptic hung heavy in the air, a constant, suffocating reminder of the battle being waged within the walls of Seoul National University Hospital. Joong-ki sat slumped in the uncomfortable plastic chair, the fluorescent lights reflecting dully off the tears that perpetually rimmed his eyes. He hadn't slept properly in weeks. Each sunrise brought a renewed wave of dread, each sunset a deeper plunge into despair. His daughter, Hannah, lay just beyond those double doors, a fragile wisp of a girl battling a disease that even the most advanced medical science seemed powerless to conquer. The doctors, with their carefully measured pronouncements and sympathetic, yet ultimately hopeless, expressions, had become a familiar, unwelcome sight. Their words, once beacons of hope, had slowly eroded into a landscape of bleak resignation. "There's nothing more we can do, Mr. Song," Dr. Lee had said just yesterday, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've exhausted all available options. We can only offer palliative care now, to keep her comfortable." Comfortable. The word felt like a cruel joke. How could anyone be comfortable when their life was slowly, inexorably being extinguished? Joong-ki had argued, pleaded, even begged, but his pleas had fallen on deaf ears, met only with the unwavering, clinical certainty of medical professionals who had simply run out of answers. He felt like he was drowning, the weight of his helplessness crushing him with each passing moment. He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. He had to do something. He couldn't just sit here and watch his little Hannah fade away. There had to be something, anything, that he could do. But what? He was a simple accountant, a man of numbers, not miracles. Outside the window, the hospital gardens offered a stark contrast to the sterile environment within. Lush green foliage, vibrant blossoms bursting with color, a miniature Eden thriving amidst the concrete and steel. It was there, amidst the roses and azaleas, that he often saw the gardener, an old man named Mr. Kim, tending to his plants with a quiet, almost reverent dedication. Joong-ki had never paid him much attention before, but now, desperate for any glimmer of hope, his gaze lingered on the old man. Mr. Kim seemed to possess a certain serenity, a quiet strength that Joong-ki desperately envied. He watched as the gardener carefully pruned a wilting rose bush, his hands moving with a gentle precision that spoke of years of experience and a deep understanding of the natural world. He remembered Hannah loved the garden. Before she got sick, she would spend hours there, chasing butterflies and marveling at the intricate beauty of each flower. The memory was a sharp pang of joy and sorrow, a reminder of what he was about to lose. Suddenly, an idea, audacious and improbable, sparked in his mind. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was the only thing he could think of. He stood up, his legs shaky, and walked out of the waiting room, determined to find Mr. Kim. Maybe, just maybe, the gardener held the key to a miracle. He found Mr. Kim near the koi pond, meticulously cleaning algae from the stone edges. The gardener's wrinkled face, etched with the wisdom of decades spent under the sun, softened as he noticed Joong-ki approaching. A gentle smile touched his lips. "Mr. Song," he greeted, his voice a low, soothing rumble. "A difficult day?" Joong-ki swallowed, the lump in his throat making it hard to speak. They said there's nothing more they can do for Hannah." The words felt like shards of glass scraping their way out. Mr. Kim nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a profound empathy. He didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. He simply listened, his presence a comforting anchor in Joong-ki's storm of grief. "She loves this garden," Joong-ki continued, his voice cracking. Before she got sick, she used to spend hours here. She loved the flowers, the butterflies, everything." Mr. Kim gestured towards a vibrant patch of sunflowers, their faces turned towards the afternoon sun. "The garden has a way of healing, Mr. Song. It reminds us of the beauty and resilience of life, even in the face of adversity." Joong-ki knew it was a long shot, a desperate plea born of desperation, but he had to try. "Mr. Kim," he began, his voice barely a whisper. Is there anything you can do? Anything at all? Some kind of plant, some kind of remedy, anything that could help her?" The gardener remained silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on the koi swimming lazily in the pond. Joong-ki held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew it was a ridiculous request. He was asking a gardener to perform a miracle, to succeed where the best doctors in the country had failed. Finally, Mr. Kim turned back to him, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of hope and sorrow. "There is something," he said softly, "but it is unconventional, and it will require much effort." Joong-ki's heart leaped. "Anything," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll do anything." Mr. Kim explained that deep within the hospital grounds, tucked away in a neglected corner of the greenhouse, grew a rare species of orchid, the Neophonetia falcata, known locally as the wind orchid. This particular orchid, however, was unlike any other. It was said to possess a unique energy, a vibrant life force that could, under the right circumstances, stimulate the body's natural healing abilities. "It's an old wives' tale, of course," Mr. Kim cautioned. "There's no scientific evidence to support it. But I've seen things. I've seen plants bring comfort and, sometimes, something more." The orchid had been neglected for years, its pot cracked and dry, its leaves withered and brown. Mr. Kim believed that if they could create the perfect environment for the orchid, if they could nurture it back to health and harness its energy, it might have a chance of helping Hannah. But it wouldn't be easy. The orchid required specific conditions, a precise balance of sunlight, humidity, and temperature. And more importantly, it needed something that Mr. Kim couldn't provide, a source of pure, unwavering hope. "The plant will respond to your energy, Mr. Song," he explained. "It will sense your fear, your despair. You must believe, with all your heart, that it can help Hannah. You must infuse it with your love and your hope." Joong-ki knew it was a crazy idea, but he was out of options. He was grasping at straws, clinging to the faintest glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. "I'll do it," he said, his voice filled with a newfound determination. "I'll do whatever it takes." Mr. Kim smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes. "Then let's begin." Together, they ventured into the neglected greenhouse, a humid, overgrown space filled with forgotten plants and the ghosts of forgotten dreams. The Neophonetia falcata was almost hidden amongst the weeds, a fragile, unassuming plant clinging to life by a thread. Joong-ki carefully lifted the cracked pot, his hands trembling. The orchid felt surprisingly light, almost weightless. He looked at Mr. Kim, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Where do we start?" he asked. Mr. Kim pointed towards a small, empty plot of land near a sunny window. "We start by building a home for it," he said. "A home filled with love and hope." And so, the unlikely pair began their work. Joong-ki, the heartbroken accountant, and Mr. Kim, the wise old gardener, embarked on a mission to create a miracle. They cleared the weeds, tilled the soil, and carefully prepared a new bed for the orchid. Mr. Kim taught Joong-ki about the specific needs of the plant, the delicate balance of nutrients and moisture it required. Days turned into nights as they toiled in the greenhouse, their efforts fueled by a shared hope and a desperate love for Hannah. Joong-ki, who had never gardened in his life, found himself immersed in the process, his mind focused on the task at hand, his worries momentarily forgotten. He watered the orchid, pruned its leaves, and whispered words of encouragement, pouring all his love and hope into the fragile plant. He even started bringing Hannah to the greenhouse, wheeling her in her hospital bed so she could be near the orchid. He would read to her, sing her favorite songs, and tell her stories of the garden, of the flowers and the butterflies she loved so much. Slowly, miraculously, the orchid began to respond. New shoots emerged from the withered stems, its leaves regained their vibrant green color, and tiny buds began to form. It was a slow, gradual process, but it was undeniable. The orchid was coming back to life. And as the orchid thrived, so too did Hannah. Her fever subsided, her breathing became easier, and a faint spark returned to her eyes. The doctors were baffled. They couldn't explain the sudden improvement in her condition. They attributed it to a temporary remission, a fluke of nature. But Joong-ki knew the truth. He knew that the orchid, nurtured by his love and hope, was working its magic. He knew that Mr. Kim's unconventional remedy was giving Hannah a second chance. The day the first flower bloomed on the Neo-Phoenicia falcata was a day Joong-ki would never forget. It was a small, delicate flower, pure white with a subtle fragrance that filled the greenhouse. He carefully cut the flower and brought it to Hannah, placing it gently in her hand. Hannah smiled, her eyes sparkling with joy. "It's beautiful, Daddy," she whispered. "Thank you." That night, Hannah slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. And when Joong-ki checked on her in the morning, he found her sitting up in bed, her face radiant with health. "I feel better, Daddy," she said. "I really do." The miracle had happened. The gardener's unconventional remedy, combined with Joong-ki's unwavering love and hope, had saved Hannah's life. The doctors were still baffled, but they couldn't deny the evidence before their eyes. Hannah was getting better, stronger, and healthier every day. As Hannah continued to recover, Joong-ki realized that he had learned a valuable lesson. He had learned that even in the face of overwhelming despair, there is always hope. He had learned that the power of love and belief can move mountains. And he had learned that sometimes the greatest miracles come from the most unexpected places. He often visited Mr. Kim in the garden, sharing stories and laughter. He helped him tend to the plants, learning about the secrets of nature and the healing power of the earth. He realized that Mr. Kim wasn't just a gardener. He was a healer, a wise man who understood the interconnectedness of all things. One day, as they were planting a new rose bush, Joong-ki turned to Mr. Kim and said, "Thank you. You saved my daughter's life." Mr. Kim smiled, his eyes twinkling. "No, Mr. Song," he said. "You saved your daughter's life. I simply showed you the way." Joong-ki shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "But I wouldn't have known what to do without you. Without your miracle." Mr. Kim chuckled softly, a sound like rustling leaves. "There are no miracles, Mr. Song, only the patient unfolding of nature's potential. You provided the sun, the water, the love. The plant, and Hannah, simply responded." He paused, then added, "Never underestimate the power of a little bit of hope, carefully cultivated." Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, albeit a new normal, one tinged with a profound gratitude and a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of life. Hannah, though still weak, was able to leave the hospital. Joong-ki brought her home, to a room overflowing with sunlight and the scent of blooming flowers. He transformed their small apartment balcony into a miniature garden, filled with her favorite plants. Dr. Lee, initially skeptical, became a frequent visitor. He confessed his astonishment at Hannah's recovery, admitting that he had never witnessed anything quite like it. He started bringing his medical students to meet Hannah, using her case as a lesson in the limitations of science and the potential of the human spirit. He would often sit with Joong-ki, asking questions about Mr. Kim's methods and the details of their gardening efforts. "I still can't explain it," Dr. Lee would say, shaking his head in wonder. "Medically, it shouldn't have happened. But it did. And that's what matters." Joong-ki would simply smile, knowing that some things are beyond explanation. Some things are simply meant to be. One afternoon, while Hannah was napping, Joong-ki received a phone call. It was from the hospital administrator. He sounded grave. "Mr. Song," he said, his voice low, "I'm afraid I have some bad news. Mr. Kim, he's been diagnosed with a serious illness. He's in the hospital now." Joong-ki's heart sank. He felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had been so focused on Hannah's recovery, he had completely neglected to check on Mr. Kim. He had assumed that the old gardener would always be there, a constant source of wisdom and strength. He rushed to the hospital, his mind racing with worry. He found Mr. Kim in a small, sterile room, hooked up to machines. He looked pale and frail, a stark contrast to the vibrant, life-affirming figure Joong-ki had come to admire. Mr. Kim smiled weakly when he saw Joong-ki. Mr. Song," he said, his voice raspy. "Good to see you." Joong-ki took his hand, his eyes filled with tears. Mr. Kim, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mr. Kim squeezed his hand gently. Don't be sorry, Mr. Song. I've lived a long and full life. I have no regrets. Joong-ki couldn't accept that. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Mr. Kim, the man who had given him and Hannah so much. He felt a desperate need to repay him, to somehow return the kindness and hope that Mr. Kim had so freely offered. He sat by Mr. Kim's bedside for hours, talking about Hannah, about the garden, about the beauty of the natural world. He told him how much he appreciated him, how much he had learned from him. As he spoke, an idea began to form in his mind. An idea that seemed crazy, audacious, but also possible. He remembered Mr. Kim's words, "There are no miracles, Mr. Song, only the patient unfolding of nature's potential." And he remembered Dr. Lee's admission. Medically, it shouldn't have happened. But it did. He realized that he couldn't rely on conventional medicine to save Mr. Kim. He had to find another way, a way that tapped into the same power that had healed Hannah. He knew what he had to do. He went home and spent the night researching Mr. Kim's condition. He learned about the specific nutrients and environmental factors that could potentially help him. He consulted with Dr. Lee, who, despite his skepticism, offered his medical expertise and resources. The next morning, Joong-ki returned to the hospital with a
plan.
He spoke to the hospital administrator, explaining his idea. The administrator was hesitant, but after hearing Joong-ki's impassioned plea and seeing the genuine hope in his eyes, he agreed to give it a try. With the help of Dr. Lee and a few willing nurses, Joong-ki transformed Mr. Kim's sterile hospital room into a miniature garden. He brought in potted plants, fragrant herbs, and even a small water fountain. He adjusted the lighting to mimic natural sunlight and played recordings of birdsong. He carefully selected plants known for their healing properties, plants that could purify the air and promote relaxation. He even brought in a Neo-Phoenicia falcata, a descendant of the orchid that had saved Hannah's life. He spent hours tending to the garden, watering the plants, pruning the leaves, and whispering words of encouragement to Mr. Kim. He told him about Hannah, about the flowers blooming on their balcony, about the beauty of the world that was waiting for him. He knew it was a long shot, a desperate gamble. But he had to try. He owed it to Mr. Kim. Days turned into nights, and Joong-ki continued his vigil. He slept in the hospital room, waking up every few hours to tend to the garden and check on Mr. Kim. He watched as the plants thrived, their vibrant colors and fragrant scents filling the room. Slowly, miraculously, Mr. Kim began to respond. His breathing became easier, his color returned, and a faint spark reappeared in his eyes. He started to eat again, and he even managed a weak smile. The doctors were amazed. They couldn't explain the sudden improvement in his condition. They attributed it to a combination of factors, including the positive effects of the garden and the power of suggestion. But Joong-ki knew the truth. He knew that the garden, nurtured by his love and hope, was working its magic. He knew that he was repaying Mr. Kim's kindness, giving him a second chance at life. One morning, Joong-ki found Mr. Kim sitting up in bed, his face radiant with health. "Thank you, Mr. Song," he said, his voice strong and clear. "You saved my life." Joong-ki smiled, his heart filled with joy. "No, Mr. Kim," he said. "We saved each other." Joong-ki knew the battle wasn't entirely won. Mr. Kim was still weak, needing constant care and observation. But the momentum had shifted. Hope, once a distant flicker, now burned with a steady flame. The sterile, impersonal hospital room, transformed into a haven of green and life, felt less like a place of dying and more like a sanctuary of healing. News of Mr. Kim's remarkable recovery spread through the hospital. Doctors, nurses, and even patients peeked into the room, marveling at the miniature ecosystem Joong-ki had created. Some were skeptical, dismissing it as a placebo effect or a statistical anomaly. Others were genuinely intrigued, wondering if there was more to healing than just medicine. Dr. Lee, initially the most doubtful, became a frequent visitor. He studied the plants, analyzed the air quality, and monitored Mr. Kim's vital signs with a newfound curiosity. He couldn't deny the evidence before his eyes. The garden was having a tangible, positive impact. "It's fascinating, Joong-ki," Dr. Lee admitted one afternoon, adjusting his glasses as he examined a particularly vibrant fern. "I've never seen anything like it. Perhaps there's something to this connection to nature that we've been overlooking in modern medicine." Joong-ki simply smiled. He didn't need validation from the medical community. He had seen the results with his own eyes. He had felt the energy of the garden, the life force that flowed through the plants and into Mr. Kim. As Mr. Kim grew stronger, he began to participate in the garden's upkeep. He would sit in a chair near the window, gently pruning the leaves or watering the plants. His hands, once frail and trembling, now moved with a newfound purpose and steadiness. He told Joong-ki stories about his life as a gardener, about the secrets he had learned from the earth, about the healing power of plants. He spoke of the interconnectedness of all living things, of the delicate balance that sustained life on Earth. "We are all connected, Mr. Song," Mr. Kim said one day, his eyes twinkling. "The plants, the animals, the humans, we are all part of the same web. When one part suffers, we all suffer. When one part heals, we all heal." Joong-ki thought of Hannah, of her fragile health, of the miracle that had saved her life. He realized that Mr. Kim's words were true. He had seen it firsthand. The garden had not only healed Mr. Kim, but it had also healed him, giving him a renewed sense of purpose and hope. One sunny afternoon, Mr. Kim asked Joong-ki to bring Hannah to the hospital. He wanted to see her, to thank her for the role she had played in his recovery. Joong-ki hesitated. He was worried about exposing Hannah to the hospital environment, about the risk of infection. But he couldn't deny Mr. Kim's request. He knew how much it meant to him. He carefully prepared Hannah for the visit, dressing her in a clean gown and mask. He explained to her that Mr. Kim was a very special man who had helped her get better. When they arrived at the hospital room, Hannah's eyes widened in amazement. She had never seen anything like it. The room was filled with plants, flowers, and the soothing sound of water. It felt like stepping into a secret garden. Mr. Kim smiled warmly as Hannah approached his bedside. He reached out and gently took her hand. "Hello, Hannah," he said, his voice soft and kind. "It's so good to finally meet you." Hannah shyly smiled back. "Hello, Mr. Kim," she said. "My daddy told me you're a gardener." "That's right," Mr. Kim said. "I love to grow things. And I hear you love flowers too." Hannah nodded enthusiastically. "I love flowers, especially orchids." Mr. Kim chuckled. "Orchids are very special flowers. They are strong and resilient, but also delicate and beautiful, just like you." He then presented Hannah with a small potted orchid, a Neophonetia falcata, just like the one that had saved her life. "This is for you, Hannah," he said, "to remind you that you are strong and beautiful and that you can overcome anything." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. She carefully took the orchid and held it close to her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Kim," she whispered. "I will take good care of it." As Hannah and Mr. Kim talked, Joong-ki felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He realized that he was witnessing something truly special, a connection between two souls that transcended age, illness, and circumstance. He knew that the garden had not only healed Mr. Kim, but it had also brought them all closer together, creating a bond of love and hope that would last a lifetime. The following weeks saw Mr. Kim's continued recovery. He was eventually discharged from the hospital, much to the amazement of the medical staff. He returned to his old job as the hospital gardener, tending to the grounds with renewed vigor and passion. He often visited Joong-ki and Hannah, sharing his knowledge of plants and nature. He taught Hannah how to care for her orchid, how to nurture its growth and appreciate its beauty. Joong-ki, inspired by Mr. Kim's example, decided to pursue his own passion for gardening. He transformed his small balcony into a thriving oasis, filled with flowers, herbs, and vegetables. He found solace and joy in tending to his garden, in connecting with the earth and witnessing the miracle of life. He also started a small community garden in his neighborhood, where people could come together to grow their own food and share their love of nature. He wanted to spread the healing power of the garden to others, to show them that even in the midst of a concrete jungle, they could find peace, beauty, and connection. Years passed, and Hannah grew into a healthy and vibrant young woman. She never forgot Mr. Kim or the orchid he had given her. She cherished it as a symbol of hope and resilience, a reminder of the miracle that had saved her life. She often visited Mr. Kim at the hospital garden, helping him tend to the plants and listening to his stories. She learned from him the importance of respecting nature, of living in harmony with the earth, and of finding beauty in the simplest of things. Joong-ki watched with pride as Hannah blossomed, as she grew into a compassionate and caring young woman. He knew that she had inherited Mr. Kim's wisdom and kindness, his love of nature, and his unwavering belief in the power of hope. He realized that the miracle that had saved Hannah's life, and then Mr. Kim's, was not just a medical anomaly or a stroke of luck. It was a testament to the power of love, hope, and connection. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found, always beauty to be appreciated, and always hope to be cherished. And it all started with a gardener who built something that caused a miracle. The hospital garden, once a simple patch of green, had become a sanctuary. Mr. Kim, though older, moved with a lightness that defied his years, his hands still stained with earth, his eyes still holding the glint of a man who knew secrets whispered by the wind and the sun. Hannah, now a young woman on the cusp of adulthood, often sat beside him, her own hands learning the language of the soil. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Hannah turned to Mr. Kim. "You know," she said softly, "I've always wondered, what exactly did you build?" The doctors were so baffled. They couldn't understand what changed. Mr. Kim smiled, a network of wrinkles deepening around his eyes. "It wasn't something tangible, Hannah. Not in the way they understand it. It wasn't a new medicine or a machine. It was a connection. A bridge." He gestured around the garden. "This place, it's more than just flowers and trees. It's a living tapestry of energy. Each plant, each creature, contributes to a symphony of life. When I was sick, I felt disconnected, adrift. Building this garden, nurturing it, allowed me to reconnect with that energy, to find my place within the rhythm of the earth." He paused, looking at Hannah with profound tenderness. "Your father, in his desperation, saw that. He saw that I had found something the doctors couldn't offer. He brought you here, hoping that you too could find that connection, that spark of life within yourself. The orchid, it was a symbol of that hope, a reminder that even in the most fragile of forms, there is immense strength." Hannah nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. "So, it wasn't just the air or the plants, it was the feeling, the energy of this place, that helped both of you heal?" "Exactly," Mr. Kim affirmed. "And your father, by embracing gardening himself, by creating his own small oasis, amplified that energy, not just for himself, but for the entire community." A few weeks later, Dr. Lee, now nearing retirement, approached Joong-ki in the hospital's lobby. He looked older, wearier, but there was a newfound respect in his eyes. "Joong-ki," he began, his voice a little shaky. I owe you an apology. We were so focused on the science, on the data, that we missed something crucial. We dismissed Mr. Kim's garden as a mere hobby, a distraction.
But it was so much more than that."
He sighed. "I've been reading about the impact of nature on healing, on mental well-being. There's a growing body of research that supports what Mr. Kim intuitively understood. We were so arrogant, so blinded by our own expertise, that we failed to see the obvious." Joong-ki placed a hand on Dr. Lee's shoulder. "It's all right, doctor. What matters is that Hannah is healthy and happy, and that you're open to learning." Dr. Lee smiled weakly. "I'm trying. The hospital board is considering expanding the garden, even creating therapeutic gardening programs for patients and staff. It's all thanks to you, to Mr. Kim, and to Hannah." Years later, Hannah graduated with a degree in environmental science. She dedicated her life to preserving natural habitats and promoting sustainable living. She often spoke about her childhood experience, about the power of nature to heal and inspire. Joong-ki continued to tend his community garden, watching it flourish into a vibrant hub of activity. He taught children about the importance of respecting the earth, of growing their own food, and of connecting with the natural world. He found a deep sense of purpose in sharing his knowledge and passion with others. Mr. Kim, though his body grew weaker with age, remained the heart of the hospital garden. He became a living legend, a testament to the power of hope and the healing potential of nature. People came from far and wide to seek his wisdom and to bask in the tranquility of his creation. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned golden and red, Hannah found Mr. Kim sitting on a bench in the garden, watching the sunset. She sat beside him, and they shared a comfortable silence. Finally, Mr. Kim spoke, his voice raspy but clear. "You know, Hannah, life is like a garden. It requires constant tending, constant care. There will be storms, there will be droughts, but if you nurture it with love and dedication, it will always find a way to bloom." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a lifetime of wisdom. "Never forget the lessons you learned here, Hannah. Never lose your connection to the earth. And always remember that even in the darkest of times, there is always the possibility of a miracle." A few days later, Mr. Kim passed away peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by the plants he loved. His funeral was a celebration of his life, a gathering of all those whose lives he had touched. The hospital garden was filled with flowers, laughter, and tears. Joong-ki and Hannah stood side by side, remembering the man who had saved their lives. They knew that his spirit would live on in the garden, in the flowers that bloomed, in the birds that sang, and in the hearts of all those who found solace and inspiration in his creation. The orchid that Mr. Kim had given Hannah continued to thrive, a symbol of resilience and hope. It was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, beauty can still emerge, and that miracles are always possible, especially when nurtured with love and a deep connection to the natural world. The gardener's legacy lived on, a testament to the extraordinary power of the ordinary, the profound impact of a single act of kindness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The miracle wasn't just about Hannah's survival or Mr. Kim's recovery. It was about the interconnectedness of life, the power of nature to heal, and the enduring hope that blossoms even in the most barren of landscapes. And it all stemmed from a simple act, a gardener who built something, a garden of hope, a bridge to healing, a miracle for all.